Hello, welcome everybody to the Ecstatic Business Show. This is Caitlin Kogan-Domer from ecstaticway.com. And today I have a cherished guest, Bob Burg, who wrote The Go-Giver and then The Go-Giver Sell More, two of my all-time favorite business books. So today is really a very special event for me. And Bob, I don't even think I've told you this, but you are the first male that I have had on my Ecstatic Business Show. So
Wow.
usually we are interviewing female entrepreneurs and speaking to a female entrepreneur, but your mission and your vision of what business can do and how sales should be run is so in alignment with the principles and the values that we teach and we support in our work that I'm so excited that we get to be here and have you here today. Thank you.
Well, that means a lot to me. Thank you, Caitlin. I appreciate it.
Yes. Well, today we're going to unpack sales. And you guys know my story. I started as this wallflower who hated sales, who thought sales was evil and manipulative. And it was kind of a win-lose alpha male, like always be closing. And it just made me feel icky inside. And one of the things that shifted it was Bob's perspective on sales. So your book was one of those first books that I read that gave me this inkling that maybe there's a different way to do this. So Bob, I would love for you to just reframe the whole experience of sales. What is sales and why is this important?
Sure. Well, first, thank you. I'm honored to know that I had something to do with, John's in my book. And, John David Mann, I really want to credit him because he's really the lead writer and storyteller, right? I mean, this guy's such a great writer. I'm a how-to guy. I'm step one, step two, step three. So I'm the boring one of the duo. And Jeff's a great writer, but also he's really good at he's a fantastic entrepreneur himself. But, it's interesting about sales because I think most of us have sort of experienced that. And it's easy to do because what does the world tell us about sales? There's all sorts of caricatures and stereotypes of salespeople. And when people say, well, I could never do sales. I don't like sales. My thought is it's not that they don't like sales. It's that they don't like what they think sales is. See, if you believe selling is about trying to convince a person to buy something they don't want or need, which by the way is not selling. That's called being a con artist, right? Well, of course, if you hold high values, you're going to think that's icky, right? To use your technical term, which I really like.
Yeah, very technical.
And so mine is yucky. Same thing. And so, but here's the thing: that's not selling. Selling, by definition, is simply discovering what the other person does need, does want, does desire, and helping them to get it. See, sales comes from an old English root, which was selan, which meant to give. So when you're selling, you're literally giving. Now, someone would say, well, wait a second, Berg, that's clever and everything. But what are you really giving when you're selling? Well, let's say you're in a sales conversation with a prospect. Okay. You are selling. So what are you giving this person? I suggest you're giving that person time, attention, counsel, education, empathy, and most of all, immense value. So when we reframe the concept of sales or selling, now we can see it as something that's not a necessary evil in our entrepreneurial venture. It's a wonderful part of our entrepreneurial venture. It's how we add value to the world.
Yeah. I love that on so many levels. And I think you're focusing just on what we're doing in the conversation, which is absolutely important because nobody gets to make a difference in their life until they've made a decision. And a sales conversation is just holding sacred space for people to make a decision that will change their destiny. So I love that you're focusing just on that call, but really in terms of that value that you're giving, what you're selling them should be worth so much more than what they're paying for it. So when I'm helping clients with their offers, it's like, what's the 10x return on investment? So they're going to get 10 times as much value as what they're paying you. And that really just helps you feel great about the work that you're doing.
Yeah, well, this is where, and that's a great point. And this is where the law of value comes into play. That's law number one of the Go Giver, which says your
Mm.
true worth, in the business sense, of course, is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. Now, when you first hear that, give more in value than you take in payment, that sounds sort of counterintuitive, doesn't it? I give more in value than I take in payment. That sounds all nicey nice and everything, but it also kind of sounds like a recipe for bankruptcy. So, what do you mean by this? Well, it's
Mm.
understanding the difference between price and value. See,
Yes.
price is a dollar figure. It's a dollar amount. It's finite. It is what it is. Value, on
Mhm.
the other hand, is the relative worth or
Mhm.
desirability of a thing, of something, to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, service, concept, idea, what have you, that brings so much worth to another person that they will willingly exchange their money for it and be glad they did, while you make a very healthy profit. Can I give you just a quick example of
Please, yeah.
okay? So let's say you hire an accountant to do your taxes, and she charges you, and we're just going to name a round figure, $1,000.
Mhm.
That is her fee, literally her price, $1,000.
Mhm.
But what value does she give you in exchange for this? Well, first through her years of work, practice, understanding, what she's doing, understanding you and your business, all the work she puts into it. She's able to save you $5,000 in taxes. She
Right?
also provides you with, she saves you countless hours of time, which frees you up to be more productive. Time is money, right?
Mhm.
Allows you, but
Yeah.
she also provides you and your family with the security and the peace of mind of
Mhm.
knowing it was done correctly, right?
Mhm.
So she gave you well over $5,000 in value, more
Mhm.
like that 10x you were talking about, when you think of
Yeah.
everything, right? In
Mhm.
exchange for $1,000 fee. Now,
Mhm.
or price. You both came out ahead. In fact, in any free market based exchange, and when I say free market, I simply mean no one's forced to do business with anyone else. You do it on your own volition. So, in any free market based exchange, there should always be two profits: the buyer profits and the seller profits, because both of them come away significantly better off than they were
Mhm.
beforehand. So, you attained, 10x what you paid, okay, 10x
Yeah.
in value than what you paid, but she also made a very healthy profit because it was worth
Yeah.
it for her to exchange her time, her expertise, her knowledge, her energy for that $1,000, right?
Mhm.
And so,
Yep.
that's really, and so that's why what we want to do is we want to focus on the value rather than the price. When you and people
Mm.
who sell according to the Go Giver way, if you will, tend to be on the upper end of the price schedule. Why? Because they're selling on high value. They're not
Mhm.
selling low price. When you sell on low price, you're a commodity. When you sell on high value, you are a resource. And that's how you have a thriving, sustainably profitable business, as well as one that is emotionally rewarding.
And I want to highlight that because I think what helped me was understanding that money is just a metaphor. So we create real value in the world with our time, with our experience, with our expertise, and we're creating and generating value. We're putting energy into this economos, this household of goods, right? But
Mhm.
we can't do that in real time. We're not bartering. So thinking of money as like a battery cell, and this is just potential energy that we're holding on to. Nobody actually wants these dollar bills or even the gold coins. We only want what those things can do
Sure.
for us. And
Exactly.
so it's like we want to take these battery cells that people are holding and they think the battery cells mean security or freedom or significance. And we want to give them the actual thing that's going to do that. We want to create memories for them. We want to give them peace of mind. We want to give them more health, vitality, whatever it is that you're selling. You have to realize that you have the thing that they really want. They just think that money is a place, the money is just a placeholder.
Yeah.
And you
Exactly.
have to be giving them the real value to exchange
Mhm.
their fake value for the real
Mhm.
value that you're providing.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why John and I say that money is simply an echo of value. It's the thunder, if you will, to values lightning, which means the
Mm.
money is the reward. The value must be your focus. You focus on the value
Mm.
providing another person. The money you receive is simply a natural result of the value that you provided. And then, of course, you'll take that money and you'll use that for your purposes, whatever you want, for your family, for
Yeah.
your for charity, for your food, for your this, for your that. And of course, when you spend that money elsewhere, those people on the value that you want more than the money, you want the
Yeah.
value for that, right? They then have the money to do what they want. And that's why it works for everyone. That's why
Mhm.
the rising tide really does raise all boats.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love this. Okay, so this was the first law of go-givers. What's the second one?
Well, the second one's the law of compensation. This takes it to the next
Mm.
level because the law of compensation says your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve
Ooh.
them. So, what law number one says, give more in value than you take in payment. Law number two tells us that the more people whose lives you touch with the exceptional value you provide, the more money with which you'll be
Mm.
rewarded. You may recall the conversation between Nicole Martin, one of the mentors, she was the CEO, with Joe, the protege in the
Mhm.
story. And she
Yep.
explained that the law of value represented your potential income,
Mm.
but it's not enough to serve just one person, no matter how well you serve them. Law number
Mhm.
two, the law of compensation, was about impact. How
Yes.
many people's lives do you touch? How many people's lives are you somehow making better, directly or indirectly, through
Mhm.
what you do? And that's the point where you earn more money. So we could say exceptional value plus significant reach, laws one and two, equal very high compensation. And that's what we saw your accountant in the first example do. She gave
Mhm.
you much more in value than she took in payment while making a very healthy profit. If you're her client, the chances are you're happy with her, you would do business with her again, and you would refer her to others. You'd tell others about her, right? Well, her other clients feel the same way. So our accountant is very quickly amassing what we call an army of personal walking ambassadors. And as she continues to add that kind
Mhm.
of exceptional value to the lives of more and more people, her income will continue to grow and grow.
Yeah. I love this. Now, I know that we've got, I think, is it 5 laws total? How
Mhm.
many of these do we have time to touch on today? Which one do
Sure,
you
whatever
think
you'd
is
like. Whatever you'd like.
okay? What's the next one that you think is most important for us to
Well,
focus
law three is the law of influence. And
on?
this one says your
Mhm.
influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Now, let me clarify this
Mm.
and sort of qualify that because that's another one that can sound rather counterproductive, even Pollyanna ish, right? Your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Please understand, we're not in any way, so when we say place other people's interests first, we're not saying you should be anyone's doormat or a
Mm.
martyr or self-sacrificial in any way. Absolutely not at all. It's simply understanding first that what we call the golden rule of sales of business, and that is that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. But here's the thing, there's no faster, more powerful, or more effective way to elicit those feelings toward you in others than by genuinely moving from that I focus or me focus to that other focus, looking to, as Sam,
Mm.
another one of the mentors in the story, told the protege Joe, making your win all about the other person's win.
I love this on so many levels. The first one is, right, loving your neighbor as yourself. Jesus gives us the first hint that there is no other, right? That everybody's good is our good, that we can't take care of ourselves at the exclusion of our brother, right? That's been the theme throughout all of history. So, just on a basic metaphysical principle,
Mhm.
that when we take care of others, we are taking care of ourselves. But very practically, oh, sorry, more you want to
No,
say on that?
go ahead. I'll hold that until you go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, very practically, I think most of us who have been in a sales position understand that when we show up needy, when we show up like, I have to close this deal because I have to get that paycheck or I have to get that commissions check, we scare the people away. But when we show up from a place of abundance, I'm taken care of. if this or something better, it's all working out for me. It's really easy for us to close deals because people want to be where the abundance is. And so when we can show up in that space of
Mhm.
abundance, we're naturally magnetizing.
Yeah. Oh, so that's perfect, by the way. The only thing I was going to just say, and this doesn't even add to it because what you just said it, you said it perfectly. But it, when you said you know, it's it's realistic, it's rational, it's logical to think about
Mhm.
this, about focusing on the other person, placing their interests first. Why? Because, and I used to say this when I spoke at sales conferences all the time, nobody is going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet, right? They're not going to buy from you because you need the money. They're not going to buy from you
Mhm.
because you have a goal of where you want your
Yeah.
business to be. And I'll tell you what, they're not even going to buy from you just because you're a really nice person. They're going to
Mm.
buy from you because they believe that they're going to be better off by doing so than by not doing so. And that's the only reason we could ever expect anyone to buy from you or from me or from anyone else. Now, this is great news for that entrepreneur who has a heart for serving others, right? And who
Mhm.
shows up, as you said, from a place of abundance where they are there to serve. And this is why
Mhm.
we say about placing other people's interests first, because they're not buying out of your interest.
Mhm.
So it's your job as the sales professional, as the entrepreneur, to discover their interest and focus on
Yes.
that. And that's how the sale is going to happen. So you said it perfectly.
And I think your book speaks to a lot of people who are in sales to be more heart centered. But I tend to find I have a lot of women who are very heart centered. And so they will just keep giving and not receiving. And this is actually the key that's helped me to kind of break them out of that paradigm is you are not selling yourself. You are not selling your time. You are not even selling your program. You are always selling a result. So
Right.
you are not like, you don't really care how you get your client from A to B. They're just buying the fact that you will take them from A to B. And you can do that through a program. You can do it through coaching. You could do it by waving your magical wand if you've got one, right?
Mhm.
They're buying the transformation. And so it kind of allows you to take your ego out of the equation and just say, do you want to go to B? Fantastic. Here's the fastest way for us to get there. Can we get started today? And it really kind of takes the fear out of this sale process.
Brilliant. Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
love this. And that takes us to, I think, my favorite of yours, law number 4, because this is the part that I think is hard for us when we're showing up. It's hard for us to shine really brightly.
Yeah. So let's talk about this one. This is number 4, the law of authenticity. And
Mhm.
this one says the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. Now, in this chapter, in this part, Deborah Davenport was the mentor, and she shared that all the skills in the world, the sales skills, technical skills, people skills, as important as they are, and they are all indeed very, very
Mhm.
important, they're also all for naught if you don't come at it from your true, authentic core.
Yes.
But when you do, when you show up as yourself day after day, week after week, month after month, people feel good about you. They feel comfortable with you. They also feel safe with you.
Mhm.
And why wouldn't they? They know who they're getting. And it's a
Yeah.
very, very powerful element of human nature that we crave consistency in our world, in a world
Mhm.
that's often not very consistent. We want
Mhm.
to understand our world in a world that's very difficult often to understand. So when you show up consistently as yourself, wow, you are creating a wonderful frame for that trust to not only develop, but to be able to sustain that trust. Now,
Mhm.
if I may, I'd like to share a thought about
Please.
authenticity because I think that, and I've personally noticed this since social media has really become a thing. I'm not sure I'm totally right about that. It's just what I've noticed, and that is since that time, the term authenticity has almost been hijacked a bit.
Mm.
While people talk about authenticity all the time, I think sometimes they are misdefining it. Authenticity now has almost sort of come to be to mean no boundaries. Just say
Mm,
or do whatever you want, whatever comes to mind, just say it, blah, 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 because at least it's authentic and that's the high. And
mhm.
I respectfully disagree with that premise. And if I may share
Mm.
why, this
Please,
would be
yeah.
like it would be like the person who says, well, I have anger issues and I yell at people a lot. And if I were to change, that wouldn't be authentic of me. That's malarkey.
Mm.
It simply means this person has an authentic problem that they
Mm.
authentically work on in order to become a better, higher, more effective, authentic version of themselves. So, we would suggest people not use authenticity as a way of not growing and using that as
Mm.
a rationalization for but instead use authenticity as an impetus to grow, to keep improving, grow into your highest self. My personal definition of authenticity is simply acting congruently with your values.
Ooh, I love this.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
if one knows their value system, okay, and they are acting congruently with that, they're being authentic,
Mm.
you know?
I love this. Yeah, my background is in philosophy, and so the medieval philosophers would argue that this right now, the anger isn't your true self, right? There is your true self, and as you ascend, you let go of the things. It's like sloughing off the skin that is not actually congruent with who you truly
Ah,
are. So,
ah, ah,
yeah, I think what you're saying is don't be authentic to your you today. Be authentic to the cosmic you, the highest you, the you that does
yeah,
show up as love, as grace, as healing in the world, right? Show up as that person every single day. And when you are not in alignment, this is where authenticity and integrity come up and say, hey, I was out of integrity. I was out of alignment with my values. I'm going to take responsibility of that and I'm going to make amends and I'm going to bring myself back into alignment. So I love that vision of
very
a
wise.
highest self authenticity. Yeah.
Wow. Your clients are
Mm.
very lucky to have you. That's
Mm.
brilliant.
Right back at you. I love that we're talking about this today. I think it's so important for the world that we're in. And this last one, I think, is going to be the one that so many of my women need to hear. So I want to make sure that we have time to touch on law number 5 as well.
Well, this is what brings it all home, okay? This is the
Mhm.
law of receptivity. And
Mhm.
the law of receptivity says the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. This really means nothing more than understanding that, yeah, you breathe out, you also have to breathe in. It's
Yes.
not one
That's
or the other, right? It's both. You breathe
Mhm.
out
Yeah.
carbon dioxide, you breathe in oxygen. You breathe
Mhm.
out, which is giving, you breathe in, which is receiving. Giving
You
and
breathe
receiving,
out value, you breathe in
breathe
money.
in value, you breathe in money. Exactly. That's right. Yeah, exactly. And
Mhm.
giving and receiving are not opposite concepts. They're simply two
Mhm.
sides of the very same coin. But
Yeah.
that's not what most of the world would have us believe. Okay. There is such an anti-prosperity bias in our world. It comes at us everywhere, online and off, in schools and just the regular wherever you are. I mean, you just see so much anti-prosperity uh, messaging. Not, I don't think on
Mhm.
purpose. It just is what it is. I mean, that's just
Mhm.
how things are. The problem is that it gets not only into your conscious, but more insidiously, it goes deep into your unconscious.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult when you think that, when unconsciously you see money as being evil, right? You
Mhm.
see business as being evil. When you see, when you believe that rich people are rich because they stepped on other people's toes and they did this and they were, now it's a big world. A lot of people do things in a bad way, of course. But by
Mhm.
and large, especially to the degree that no one is forced to buy from you, the only way you can get wealthy is providing immense value to the lives of lots of people. And, that's the only.
But that is so hard for us to accept when we're feeling poor. Is like, not
Yeah,
only is that person wealthier than me, they're actually better at giving value than I am. Like,
that's
ooh,
right.
that's like a double punch in the nose.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And the world, so much of it would have you say, "Oh no, no, the people who are wealthier didn't give more value. No, they just
Mhm.
found a way to cheat, or they found a way to," and it's
Mhm.
unfortunate. And that's
Yes.
why I'm a big believer that we really need to study, actively study prosperity,
Yes.
because the garbage, the anti-prosperity garbage comes at us all the time, and you don't even know when
Mhm.
you're getting it. One of my great friends, a prosperity authority, Randy Gage, does this great vignette about how at the movies, if you notice most movies, the big selling movies, there's always two types that are being represented. There are the
Mhm.
poor people, no, the good people who are generally poor, struggling, honest,
Yep.
still happy, right? But they're always being stepped on, stepped over, stepped around, pushed down,
Mhm.
pushed out by who? The rich people who are mean and nasty and horrible and have no
Mhm.
soul. And he gives these great examples. But again, you just a kid is taking these in, a young person, and not even
Oh, yeah.
understanding the premise. Let's take one example. Randy uses the first Spider-Man movie. um,
Mm.
Peter Parker is with his uncle Ben, and they're talking about their financial position being poor.
Mhm.
And Uncle Ben, now let's really get this. Uncle Ben says to Peter, "Well, Peter, we might be poor, but at least we're honest."
Yeah.
What a horrible, horrible message for some 12 or 13-year-old little boy or girl watching this thing to take in, because they're not even getting that there's a premise there that just went
Yeah.
into their unconscious, that if
Right.
you're poor, there's a chance that you're probably honest, but if you're honest, you got no shot at actually making money,
Mm.
because it's
Right.
only honest people who are poor. The whole
Mhm.
premise is that all the rich
That
people
wealthy
out there.
people are inherently dishonest. Yeah.
Right. So
Mhm.
you grow up with a set of values of honesty and integrity and kindness and all these things. And now you're 25, 30 years old, and you're starting to, add some real value to the world, and things are starting to come to you. But wait a second, what's that unconscious telling you? Well, wait a second, there's something wrong here. If I'm making
Mm.
money now, what did I do that was wrong? Who did I
Yeah.
cheat? Who did I, right?
Mhm.
And again, well, but isn't that just a movie? Well, first of all, it's pretty much every movie, but that aside, it's everywhere you go. So I'm going to make just a suggestion, if I may.
Mhm.
Look up people like Randy Gage, like Ellen
Mhm.
Rogan of Chicago, a financial advisor for women for many years, who now specializes in abundance prosperity
Mm.
mentality, gears it toward women, but it's for everybody. And she just wrote a
Mhm.
great book. Oh, what's it called? It's up there. Oh shoot, something like, not Conversations with Money, but something with money. It's a
Maybe
brilliant.
you can help me get her on the show. We would
Oh,
love
yeah,
to have you.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, you will love her. Then there's
Mhm.
people like Sharon Lechter, there's Ken Honda, there's David Nagel. These people, they write, they speak, they blog, they do videos on prosperity mindset, and it's all
Mhm.
about helping get past the blocks that
Yes.
keep us from that
Yeah.
abundance that we deserve, and we
Mhm.
deserve, so long as we've provided value to others. But if we have, and I know all of your listeners are doing that, then you also have to be able to receive with gratitude, not push it away.
Mm. Yeah, and I do work with so many healers, spiritual people, and it's very easy for me. Uh, they kind of look at pictures like Jesus, Buddha, Gandhi, right? Our sages tended to be poor and to reject that worldview, that thing. And I'm like, I believe that that was a lesson that the world needed to learn. That we needed to have people who showed up and said, you can be powerful without having money. You can be spiritually impactful without having prestige in the world's eyes. And that was a valuable lesson for that generation to learn, because up until then, you're right, there was no hope of doing anything or being anything or changing the world in any significant way without wealth or prestige and power. But I feel like our generation, we're almost like 2,000 years later, we
Mhm.
now get to show up. And I think the lesson that we get to teach our children is that this work is the most valuable work in the world.
Mhm.
that you can be spiritually rich and financially rich, and there is
Absolutely.
no
Absolutely. There's no
paradox.
dichotomy between the two.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love
Another
your,
great book. Oh, excuse me.
please go for it.
Another great book. It's a short book. It's wonderful. It was written in 1910. It's called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace
Mm.
Wattles.
I am rereading that right now. I love that book so much. Yeah, say more. What were you going to highlight about it? And I'll put it in the chat so people can find
Oh
it.
no, that I mean, I just think that's a wonderful book to get, and
Mhm.
any book that is sharing uh, the basic premise of live on that creative plane, look for ways to create wealth for others, focus on how you can, which again, there's nothing and I want to make sure people know there's nothing self-sacrificial about. If what you're doing is self-sacrificial, you're doing it incorrectly.
Mm.
That's very, very important. It should be everything you do as you focus on bringing immense value to others should be lifting everyone.
Yeah, I just highlighted that one of that sentences recently was like, I'm not trying to get anything that anyone else has. That
Right.
this is not a competitive world, it is a creative world. And I'm
Yeah.
not trying to like get your piece of the pie. I'm trying to make a bigger pie. And that
Right.
helped a lot. Hmm.
He talks about living on the creative rather than on the competitive plane.
Yes.
And it's not that you don't realize in your business that you have competition, of course you have competition. Part of life is competition. It's that you're not focused on the competition. You
Hmm.
are aware of them. That's just prudent business. But your focus is on the value you're creating for your customers and clients. And if you live on
Yeah.
that plane, it doesn't matter who's around.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Bob, this has been such an amazing conversation. This
Oh,
is
thank
all
you.
of my favorite topics, full like sales and money and impact and authenticity. And so, so grateful that we got to have you here and for
Likewise.
spending your morning with us. As we're parting, we always like to do one last thought. If there was one thing that you could have our female entrepreneurs take away from this conversation, what do you want them to really remember?
Mm, let's see. Okay, I could give you a couple things because my mind's going back and forth between one.
Yeah.
One is a comment by a great friend of mine, Carol Roth, who is, I don't know if you've ever heard of Carol. She is one of the most prolific entrepreneurs who is a female. Okay, and she sold
Mm.
millions of dollars when she was in finance. She's now on TV a lot as a commentator. And what she says is she'll often, after a talk, a woman will come up to her and she'll say, Carol, what one advice can you give to me as a female entrepreneur? And Carol always says, first, stop thinking of yourself as a female entrepreneur.
Mm.
You're an entrepreneur. You happen to be female or a woman, however you want to say it.
Yes.
Okay. But you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
Find a way to provide value to the marketplace and
absolutely.
you're going to thrive. The
Mm.
second thing I would just say is, and this comes just from someone a mentor who given me advice a long time ago. And he just said, Berg, if you want to make a lot of money in sales, he said, don't have making money as your target. Your target is serving others. Now, he said, when
Mm.
you hit the target, you'll get a reward. And that reward
Mhm.
will come in the form of money. And you can do with
Mhm.
that money whatever you choose, but remember, the money is simply the reward for hitting the target. It's not the target
Mhm.
itself. Your target is serving
Mhm.
others. And I think I really believe that when we come at sales from that foundational premise, that our goal is simply for that other person's life to be better just because we are part of it, then we're
Mhm.
9 steps ahead of the game in a 10-step game.
I love this. And Marusha said, thank you for getting Bob on the show. She loves your work and it's inspired her greatly. So,
Wow. Thank you.
and I just reiterate that it has been a beautiful gift. And thank you for showing up authentically and giving your value, right? Sometimes as artists, as writers, we can kind of forget how powerful the work is that we're doing. So I'm so grateful that you got to come here.
Thank you for having
Hmm.
me.
It, For listeners, if you'd like to learn more, go to Burg, BURG.com to learn more. Bob has a daily impact, so you can sign up for more of this amazing inspiration in your inbox every single day, burg.com/daily-impact. We would love to hear more from you. And as if you guys have questions, I'm happy to pass them on and support you however we can in getting this message out to more people, Bob. So if you don't have his books yet, go pick them up. Go Giver, Sell More. Absolutely, you need these 2 books on your bookshelves.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you so much.